The air inside the giant arena smelled like metal and sweat. Kim Tae could hear the loud voices of thousands of aliens above him as he sat in the cold underground room. His left shoulder hurt so much that every small movement made him want to scream, but he kept his face calm and quiet. The white bandages around his arm were already turning red from the blood that kept coming out. 3 days ago, Kim Tae had been the strongest human fighter in the galaxy. Everyone knew his name and everyone respected him. He could move faster than most aliens could see, and his punches were so powerful they could break through metal armor. But that was before he fought the Bruthan warrior called Gorak, who stood 8 feet tall and had claws like sharp knives. The fight against Gorak had been terrible. Kim Tae remembered every second of it. The big alien had grabbed him with one massive hand and thrown him across the arena like he was a small toy. Then those terrible claws had come down and ripped through his shoulder, leaving deep cuts that went all the way to the bone. The crowd had cheered when Kim Tae fell and could not get back up now. As he sat on the metal bench in the fighters' waiting room, Kim Tae could hear other warriors talking about him, in whispers. They thought he was finished. They thought one bad fight had broken his spirit forever. Some of them laughed quietly when they walked past him, pointing at his bandaged arm and shaking their heads. A green-skinned alien warrior with spikes on his back walked by and spoke loudly so everyone could hear. Look at the mighty human now sitting there like a broken doll. I heard he cried like a baby when those claws hit him. Maybe humans should stick to farming instead of fighting. Another alien with blue fur and 3 arms joined in the laughter. Yes, I saw the fight on the big screens. The human moved so slowly, even my grandmother could have beaten him, and she has been dead for 50 years. The other fighters laughed even louder. At this joke, Kim Tae felt his face get hot with anger, but he did not say anything. He knew that showing anger would only make them laugh more. Instead, he focused on wrapping new bandages around his shoulder, trying to stop the bleeding. The pain was getting worse, but he had learned to live with pain. A tall blue alien with 4 eyes walked into the room. His name was Dr. Zell, and he took care of injured fighters. He looked at Kim Tae's shoulder and made a worried face. The doctor touched the bandages very gently, but even that small touch made Kim Tae close his eyes in pain. Dr. Zell spoke in a soft voice that sounded like wind blowing through trees. Your shoulder is badly damaged, human. The muscles are torn and the bones have small cracks in them. You should not fight for at least 2 months, maybe 3 months. You need time to heal properly. Kim Tae looked up at the alien doctor with tired eyes. But I have to fight today. The arena master already announced my name to the crowd. If I do not show up, everyone will think humans are weak and afraid. They will think we give up when things get hard. The doctor shook his blue head sadly. I understand your pride, young warrior, but pride will not fix broken bones. If you fight today, with this injury, you might never be able to use your arm properly again. You could be hurt so badly that you can never fight again. But Kim Tae was not listening anymore. He was thinking about his home planet Earth and all the humans who were watching this fight on their screens back home. He was thinking about his little sister Sue, who had cried when he left to join the Galactic fighting tournament. She had begged him not to go because she was afraid he would get hurt or killed. Kim Tae remembered the last conversation he had with Sue at the spaceport. She had held his hand tightly and looked at him with tears in her eyes. Promise me, brother, she had said. Promise me you will come home safely. Promise me you will not try to be a hero and get yourself killed. He had smiled and ruffled her black hair. Do not worry, little sister. He had told her, I am the best fighter Earth has ever produced. I will win every fight and make our planet famous. Then I will come home with enough prize money to buy you that house by the ocean you always wanted. But now, sitting in this cold room with his shoulder on fire, Kim Tae wondered if he had made a promise he could not keep. Maybe he was not as strong as he thought. Maybe humans really were too weak to compete with the other races in the galaxy. The metal door to the waiting room opened with a loud noise, and the arena master walked in. He was a Kelvarian alien with purple skin and 6 arms who controlled all the fights in the arena. His name was Vex, and he was known for being cruel and caring only about making money from the fights. Vex looked at Kim Tae with his yellow eyes and smiled in a way that was not friendly at all. Well, the famous human warrior, how are you feeling today? Ready to put on another good show for our audience? Kim Tae stood up slowly, using his good arm to push himself off the bench. The pain in his shoulder was like fire, but he did not let it show on his face. I am ready to fight, he said in a clear, strong voice. Vex laughed, and his 6 arms moved in different directions like he was conducting invisible music. Oh, I am sure you are ready, human. But the question is, ready for what? Ready to win or ready to lose badly in front of everyone? The arena master walked closer to Kim Tae until they were standing face to face, even though Vex was much taller. You see, human, the crowd is very excited to watch your fight today. They heard about what happened to you 3 days ago. They heard that the mighty Kim Tae got beaten so badly he could barely walk. They want to see if you are still strong or if you are just another weak human after all. Kim Tae felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. What do you mean? Vex smiled even wider, showing his sharp teeth. I mean that today you are fighting Orcs, the unbeaten. He is a Zilanian warrior who has never lost a single fight. He has 4 arms, each one stronger than your whole body. He has beaten warriors from 12 different planets, and most of them were much bigger and stronger than you. The arena master paused and looked at Kim Tae's bandaged shoulder. Korak specifically asked to fight you, human. He said he wanted to show the galaxy what happens when a real warrior faces a broken toy. He said it would be fun to watch you crawl around the arena floor begging for mercy. Dr. Zell stepped forward and spoke in an angry voice. This is not fair. Vex, the human is badly injured. Any fighter needs time to heal before facing another opponent, especially someone as dangerous as Korax. You are setting up Kim Tae to be seriously hurt or killed, but Vex just shrugged his 6 shoulders. The crowd wants entertainment, Doctor. They paid good money to see fights, not to watch injured warriors rest in bed. If the human cannot fight, then maybe humans should not be in the arena at all. Maybe they should go back to their little planet and leave the fighting to real warriors, Kim. Tae felt something cold and hard settle in his stomach. He knew this was a trap. Vex wanted him to lose badly so that humans would look weak and pathetic in front of the whole galaxy, but he also knew he had no choice. If he refused to fight, everyone would say that humans were cowards who ran away when things got difficult. The sound of the crowd above them got louder, and Kim Tae could hear them chanting, Korax, 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 over and over again like a war song. The arena master checked his watch and smiled. It is time, human. Your fans are waiting. Kim Tae walked slowly toward the metal door that led to the arena floor. Each step sent pain shooting through his shoulder, but he kept walking. Dr. Zell called after him. Please be careful, young warrior. Remember that no fight is worth your life. But Kim Tae did not look back. He pushed open the heavy door, and bright light flooded over him. The roar of the crowd hit him like a giant wave, and he could feel the heat from thousands of alien bodies packed into the arena seats. Above him, purple and gold lights flashed in patterns that hurt his eyes. The arena floor was covered in yellow sand that had been stained brown in many places from the blood of previous fighters. Kim Tae walked toward the center, stepping carefully because his legs still felt weak from his injury. Behind him, he could hear Vex announcing his name to the crowd, but the cheering was not very loud. Some aliens in the crowd were pointing at him and laughing. Others were making bets about how quickly he would lose. A few were even throwing small pieces of trash at him, showing their lack of respect. The hot lights made him sweat, and the pain in his shoulder got worse with every step. Then the opposite door opened with a loud crash, and Korax stepped out. Korax stepped onto the arena sand like he owned the entire galaxy. His 4 massive arms swung at his sides as he walked, and each step made the ground shake slightly beneath his feet. He stood 7 feet tall with black skin that looked like polished, metal and muscles that bulged like mountains under his minimal armor. The Zilanian warrior wore only a simple chest plate and arm guards because he wanted everyone to see his perfect body. The crowd went completely crazy when they saw Korax appear. Thousands of aliens jumped to their feet, screaming his name and waving colorful banners with his picture on them. Some threw flowers onto the arena floor, while others shot bright fireworks into the air. The noise was so loud that Kim Tae could feel it vibrating in his chest. Korax raised all 4 of his arms high above his head and flexed his muscles. The crowd cheered even louder as they saw the power in those limbs. Each of his arms was thicker than Kim Tae's entire body and covered in old scars from previous battles that he had won. His yellow eyes glowed with confidence as he looked around the arena like a king, surveying his kingdom. Kim Tae stood in the center of the arena, looking very small compared to his opponent. The human was only 5 feet 8 inches tall, and his injured shoulder made him appear even weaker than usual. His simple black fighting clothes looked plain next to Korax's shining armor, and his bandaged arm hung awkwardly at his side. The arena master, Vex, climbed onto a floating platform that rose high above the fighting area. His 6 arms spread wide as he began to speak to the crowd in his loud, booming voice. Today we witness a battle between 2 very different warriors. On one side we have Korax, the unbeaten champion of 12 worlds, destroyer of legends, the warrior who has never tasted defeat. The crowd roared so loudly that dust fell from the arena ceiling. Vex waited for the noise to die down before continuing. And on the other side, we have Kim Tae, the human who calls himself a warrior, but who 3 days ago was beaten so badly that he spent 2 days unconscious in our medical bay. This time, the crowd made different sounds. Some laughed while others booed, and a few aliens made rude gestures at Kim Tae. The human felt his face burn with shame, but he kept his expression calm and focused. He had learned long ago that showing emotion in the arena was a sign of weakness. Korax began walking toward Kim Tae with slow, confident steps. His 4 arms moved in perfect rhythm, and his yellow eyes never left the human's face. As he got closer, the size difference became even more obvious. The alien's head was level with Kim Tae's chest, and his shoulders were twice as wide. When Korax was only 10 feet away, he stopped and looked Kim Tae up and down like he was examining a piece of broken equipment. The alien warrior shook his head sadly and spoke in a voice that was deep and rumbling, like distant thunder. This is what Earth sends to represent their species, a small, broken creature who can barely stand upright. The crowd erupted in laughter, and Korax smiled, showing rows of sharp white teeth that looked like they could bite through steel. He raised one of his 4 arms and pointed directly at Kim Tae's bandaged shoulder. Look at this pathetic display. Everyone can see that this human is already defeated. The fight has not even started, and he is already wounded and weak. Kim Tae said nothing, but his dark eyes watched. Every movement that Korax made, he studied how the alien held his arms, how he distributed his weight, which leg he favored when he turned. The human was looking for weaknesses, for patterns, for anything that might give him an advantage in the coming fight. But Korax was not finished with his show. He began walking in a circle around Kim Tae, speaking loudly so that every alien in the arena could hear his words. I have fought real warriors from across the galaxy. I have defeated Bruthan berserkers, who could crush rocks with their bare hands. I have beaten Vorth assassins who moved faster than lightning. I have destroyed Kelvarian generals with 1,000 years of fighting experience. With each boast, Korax flexed different muscles showing off his incredible strength. The crowd loved every second of it, and their cheering grew louder and louder. Some aliens began chanting his name, while others started betting on how quickly he would win the fight. And now the arena masters bring me this. Korax continued gesturing at Kim Tae with obvious disgust, a human who looks like he belongs in a medical bed, not in a fighting arena. Look at how he trembles. Look at how he favors his injured arm. Look at how he struggles just to stand upright. Kim Tae was indeed trembling, but not from fear. The pain in his shoulder was getting worse, and staying upright was becoming more difficult with each passing minute. However, he refused to show weakness by sitting down or asking for help. Instead, he focused on breathing slowly and keeping his mind clear. The alien warrior stopped directly in front of Kim Tae and leaned down, so their faces were only inches apart. "I have heard stories about human warriors," Korax said in a quieter voice that still carried to the crowd. "They say humans are tough and never give up. They say humans can survive anything and keep fighting, no matter what happens to them." Korax straightened up and laughed loudly. "But looking at you, I think those stories are just lies made up to make humans feel better about being the weakest race in the galaxy. You are proof that humans break just like everyone else, maybe even easier than most." The insults continued for several more minutes while the crowd laughed and cheered. Korax called Kim Tae a coward, a weakling, a disgrace to his species, and many other cruel names. He described in detail how badly the human had lost his previous fight, and how pathetic he had looked lying unconscious on the arena floor. Through it all, Kim Tae remained silent. He did not defend himself or argue back or show any anger on his face. Instead, he used the time to study his opponent more carefully. He noticed that Korax favored his right arms slightly when he gestured. He saw that the alien's left leg was scarred from an old injury. He observed that Korax became more animated and less careful when he was showing off for the crowd. Finally, Vex raised his staff high in the air and shouted over the noise, "Enough talk. It is time for these warriors to prove themselves with action. Let the combat begin." The crowd fell silent with anticipation as a loud horn sounded across the arena. Korax cracked his knuckles on all four hands, making sounds like breaking branches. He rolled his massive shoulders and stretched his neck from side to side. Then he looked at Kim Tae with yellow eyes full of cruel amusement. "This will be over quickly, human. Try not to embarrass your species too badly." The alien warrior began walking toward Kim Tae with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. His four arms hung loose and ready at his sides, and his steps were sure and steady. The crowd leaned forward in their seats, expecting to see the human defeated within seconds. But as Korax approached, something strange happened. Kim Tae dropped into a fighting stance that looked nothing like what anyone expected. Instead of trying to protect his injured shoulder, he positioned himself as if both arms were equally strong. His feet spread wide for balance, and his eyes focused completely on his opponent. For just a moment, Korax hesitated. Something about the human's posture seemed different from what he had expected, but then he shook off the feeling and charged forward, determined to end the fight quickly. Korax rushed forward like a charging bull, his four massive arms swinging in deadly arcs that could have crushed stone. His yellow eyes burned with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat, and his metal-black skin gleamed under the arena lights. He expected to end this fight with one powerful blow that would send the broken human flying across the sand. But Kim Tae was not where Korax expected him to be. When the alien's fists came crashing down, they hit nothing but empty air and sand. The human had rolled to the side at the last possible second, using his smaller size and speed to avoid the crushing attack. His movements were smooth and controlled. Despite the pain that shot through his injured shoulder, Korax stumbled slightly as his attack missed completely. He spun around quickly looking for the human and found Kim Tae standing several feet away in a new position. The alien warrior growled in annoyance, but he was not worried yet. Missing one attack meant nothing. In a real fight running already little human. Korax called out loudly so the crowd could hear. I thought humans were supposed to be brave, but you move like a frightened rabbit. The alien spectators laughed at this insult, and some began making jokes about cowardly humans who preferred running to fighting. But a few of the smarter aliens in the crowd noticed something strange about how Kim Tae moved. He was not running in panic or desperation like a beaten warrior would. Instead, his movements were calculated and purposeful like someone who had a plan. The human was studying his opponent, watching every move and learning from each exchange. Kim Tae circled around Korax, keeping his distance and staying light on his feet. His injured arm still hung at his side, but his good arm was raised and ready. His dark eyes never left the alien warrior, and he seemed to be looking for something specific, some weakness or pattern that he could use. This is boring, Korax announced to the crowd as he turned to follow Kim Tae's movement. The human is too scared to fight like a real warrior. He just wants to run in circles until he gets tired and falls down. Maybe we should put a leash on him and make him perform tricks instead. The crowd laughed. Again, but their laughter was not as loud as before. Some aliens were becoming interested in the human's strategy. They had expected him to charge forward desperately or collapse from his injuries, but instead, he seemed to have a different plan entirely. Korax grew impatient with the circling and decided to use his superior speed to catch the human. He burst forward again, this time using all 4 arms in a coordinated attack that covered a wide area. There was no way the human could dodge this time. The alien was sure he would connect with at least one devastating blow. Kim Tae saw the attack coming and did something that shocked everyone watching. Instead of trying to dodge away, he stepped forward into the attack. His movement was so unexpected that Korax could not adjust his swing in time. The human slipped under the alien's lower arms and grabbed onto Korax's armor with his good hand. What are you doing? Korax snarled as he tried to shake the human loose, but Kim Tae held on tightly and moved with the alien's attempts to dislodge him. The human flowed around Korax's body like water, staying close where the big alien's size became a disadvantage instead of a strength. For 30 seconds, this strange dance continued, Korax swinging wildly with his 4 arms, while Kim Tae stayed pressed against his body, making it impossible for the alien to get a clean shot. The crowd watched in confusion as their champion struggled to hit an opponent who was much smaller and supposedly much weaker. This is impossible! Korax gasped as he spun in circles trying to throw Kim Tae off. You are injured and weak. How can you move like this? The alien was breathing harder now, and sweat was beginning to show on his black skin. He had expected an easy victory, but instead found himself struggling against an opponent who fought in ways he did not understand. Kim Tae said nothing but continued to move with fluid grace around Korax's attacks. Every time the alien tried to grab him, the human was already somewhere. Else every time Korax thought he had a clear shot, Kim Tae had moved again. The injured shoulder still caused pain, but the human had learned to work around it. Then suddenly Kim Tae released his grip and stepped back several feet away from the confused alien warrior. The crowd gasped as they saw something that made no sense at all. The human was now standing with both arms raised in a fighting position. His injured left arm moved smoothly and naturally, showing no sign of the weakness he had displayed earlier. The white bandages that had been wrapped around his shoulder fell away, revealing skin that was bruised and marked but not broken. The arm that everyone thought was useless moved with strength and control. Kim Tae flexed his fingers and rolled, his shoulder testing his range of motion. Korax's yellow eyes went wide with shock and disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. You were broken. I saw you crying in the medical bay. Your arm was hanging uselessly at your side. You could barely lift it above. Your waist, Kim Tae spoke for the first time since entering the arena. his voice calm and clear. "I was hurt," he said simply, "but humans do not break as easily as you think." The human rolled both shoulders and took a deep fighting stance that showed perfect balance and control. The arena fell completely silent as thousands of alien spectators tried to understand what they were seeing. The human had been pretending to be more injured than he really was, while everyone expected him to be weak and slow. He had been studying, planning, and waiting for the right moment to reveal his true condition. "You tricked us," Korax said, his voice filled with anger and embarrassment. "You made everyone think you were finished, beaten, defeated, but you were preparing, weren't you? You were making us all underestimate you." Kim Tae nodded slightly. "The injury was real," he admitted, "but I made it look worse than it was. I let everyone believe I was broken while I watched and learned and prepared for this moment. I needed you to be confident. I needed you to think this would be easy." The crowd began to murmur and whisper as they realized what had happened. Some aliens felt foolish for believing the human's weakness was complete. Others became angry at being deceived. But many began to look at Kim Tae with new respect. They had never seen such clever strategy before. Korax roared in fury and embarrassment. The crowd had been laughing at the human, but now they might laugh at him instead. He could not allow that to happen. His reputation as an unbeatable warrior was everything to him. Without that, he was just another fighter in a galaxy full of fighters. Using all four arms, Korax launched the most powerful attack he had ever attempted. His fists moved like meteors, fast and deadly, trying to crush the human who had made a fool of him. The alien put all his strength, all his speed, and all his rage into this assault. But Kim Tae was ready. This was exactly what he had been waiting for. All the studying, all the patience, all the pretending to be weak had led to this single moment. When Korax committed everything to his attack, he also left himself open to counterattack. The human moved like flowing water, bending and turning to avoid the crushing. Blows that came at him from 4 different directions. Each time Korax missed the alien, became more frustrated and less careful. His attacks grew wilder and more desperate. Then Kim Tae struck back. Kim Tae's first counterattack came like lightning. His right fist found a gap between Korax's wildly swinging arms and struck the alien directly in the ribs. The sound of the impact echoed across the arena like a crack of thunder, and Korax gasped. In surprise and pain, he had not expected the small human to hit so hard before Korax could recover Kim. Tae was already moving again. His supposedly useless left arm snaked around one of the alien's 4 limbs and twisted with surprising strength. The alien warrior's balance shifted, and for the first time in the fight he stumbled backward. His yellow eyes went wide with shock. The crowd erupted in gasps and confused murmurs. How was this possible? The human was supposed to be the weakest race in the galaxy. Their bodies were soft. Their strength was limited, and their lifespans were short compared to most alien species. Yet here was one human making their greatest champion look clumsy and uncertain. Korax caught himself before falling, but his confidence was shaken. He looked at Kim Tae with new eyes, seeing not a broken victim, but a dangerous opponent who had been planning this moment from the very beginning. The alien realized he had been fighting a shadow, while the real warrior had been hiding in plain sight. "You cannot be this strong," Korax said, his voice filled with confusion and growing fear. "Humans are weak. Everyone knows this. The stories say you break easily, that you give up when things get hard, that you are only good for simple work, not real fighting." Kim Tae wiped a drop of blood from his mouth where one of Korax's earlier attacks had grazed him. The human smiled, but it was not a happy expression. It was the grin of a predator who had finally revealed his true nature. "Maybe you believed the wrong stories," he said quietly. The 2 warriors began to circle each other again, but now everything was different. Korax moved more carefully. His 4 arms held in defensive positions instead of attacking wildly. was no longer looking at an easy victim, but at someone who had already proven he could cause real damage. Kim Tae moved with fluid grace, his injured shoulder no longer slowing him down. The pain was still there, but it had become background noise, something he could ignore while focusing on the fight. His dark eyes tracked every movement Korax made, looking for the next opening, the next opportunity to strike. "I have fought warriors from dozens of worlds," Korax said as they circled. "I have defeated champions who trained for hundreds of years. I have broken fighters who were twice your size and 10 times your strength. How can one small human be giving me this much trouble? Because you never fought someone like me before," Kim Tae replied simply. "You fought big, strong aliens who relied on their natural advantages. But humans have something different. We learn. We adapt. We find ways to win even when everything seems hopeless." The crowd was completely absorbed now. The laughter and mockery had stopped entirely. Instead, thousands of alien spectators leaned forward in their seats, watching every move with intense focus. They had come expecting to see a quick execution, but instead, they were witnessing something extraordinary. Korax decided to use his experience advantage. He had been fighting in arenas for over 20 years, while this human was young and relatively new to galactic combat. The alien began using more complex attack patterns, mixing feints with real strikes and trying to confuse his opponent with unpredictable movements, but Kim Tae adapted quickly. Every time Korax tried a new technique, the human found a way to counter it. When the alien feinted left and attacked right, Kim Tae was already moving in the correct direction. When Korax tried to grab him with 2 arms while striking with the other 2, the human slipped through the gaps like smoke. "This is impossible." Korax panted after another series of attacks failed to connect. He was breathing harder now, and sweat ran down his black skin in streams. The alien had expected to finish this fight in minutes, but they had been battling for almost 15 minutes with no clear winner. Kim Tae was also showing signs of fatigue, but his spirit remained strong. Blood ran from several cuts on his face and arms where Korax's attacks had grazed him. His breathing was labored, and his movements were slightly slower than before, but his eyes still burned with determination. The human suddenly did something that surprised everyone. He stopped running and dodging and instead planted his feet firmly on the arena sand. Then he raised both arms and beckoned for Korax to attack him. It was a direct challenge, an invitation to test strength against strength. "You want to trade blows?" Human Korax asked with disbelief. "That is suicide. I have 4 arms and each one is stronger than your entire body. If we stand and fight, you will be crushed in seconds." Kim Tae just smiled and kept his arms raised. "I have been running and dodging long enough," he said. "Now I want to see if you can hit as hard as you talk." The crowd held its breath as Korax considered this challenge. His pride demanded that he accept. No alien warrior could back down from such a direct test of strength, especially not in front of thousands of spectators, but something in the human's eyes made him hesitate. Korax shook off his doubts and charged forward with all 4 arms swinging. He put everything he had into this attack, using his full strength and speed to try to overwhelm the human completely. If Kim Tae wanted to test strength against strength, then Korax would show him the difference between alien power and human weakness. The 2 warriors collided in the center of the arena, with tremendous force. The sound of their impact was like 2 meteors crashing together, and dust exploded around them from the force of the collision. For a moment, neither fighter was visible through the cloud of sand and debris. When the dust settled, the crowd gasped in amazement. Both warriors were still standing, but they were locked together in a deadly embrace. Korax's 4 arms were wrapped around Kim Tae, trying to crush him, while the human had somehow managed to get inside the alien's guard and was striking at close range. They separated after several seconds, both stepping back and breathing heavily. Korax looked shocked that the human had survived such close contact, while Kim Tae wiped blood from a cut above his eye, but remained steady. On his feet, How Korax whispered, "You should be broken. You should be unconscious. You should be defeated. How are you still standing?" Kim Tae looked at his alien opponent with calm determination. "Because humans do not know how to quit," he said simply. "We get knocked down. We get back up. We get hurt. We keep fighting. We lose everything and we find a way to win anyway." These words hit the crowd like a physical blow. In all their years of watching arena combat, they had never heard anything like this. Warriors usually fought for glory, for money, or for their people's honor. But this human was fighting for something deeper, something that went beyond personal gain. Many aliens in the crowd found themselves leaning forward despite having bet against the human. They were witnessing something rare and powerful, the sight of someone who refused to surrender no matter how impossible the odds became. Some spectators who had been laughing at Kim Tae earlier now watched him with growing respect. Korax felt something he had not experienced in many years: doubt. The alien looked at this small, bleeding human, who should have been defeated long ago, and felt uncertainty creep into his mind. For the first time in his career, he began to wonder if he might actually lose this fight. The arena fell silent, except for the sound of both warriors breathing heavily as they prepared for the final phase of their battle. The fight that followed was unlike anything the arena had ever witnessed. Korax still had clear advantages in size, strength, and the number of arms, but something fundamental had changed in the battle. The alien warrior was no longer fighting a victim. He was fighting someone who absolutely refused to be defeated. Every time Korax landed a solid blow that should have ended the fight, Kim Tae found a way to absorb the impact and keep moving when the alien's massive fist connected with the human's, chest sending him sliding across the sand. Kim Tae rolled with the momentum and came up ready to continue fighting. When Korax grabbed him with two arms and hurled him against the arena wall, Kim Tae hit the barrier and bounced back into combat. The crowd watched in growing amazement as this pattern repeated over and over. The small human warrior would get knocked down, hurt, beaten, and battered, but he would always get back up. His body showed the terrible damage he was taking. Blood ran from cuts on his face and arms. His breathing became labored and his movements grew slower, but his spirit remained completely unbroken. "Why will you not stay down?" Korax gasped after throwing Kim Tae across the arena for the fourth time. The alien warrior was breathing heavily now, and his forearms ached from delivering so many powerful attacks. He had expected an easy victory, but this fight had been going on for over 30 minutes. Kim Tae pushed himself up from the sand, once again spitting blood and wiping dust from his eyes. His black fighting clothes were torn and stained, but he stood straight and raised his fists in a fighting position. "Because staying down is not what humans do," he said with a voice that carried clearly across the silent arena. The human continued speaking as he walked back toward Korax. "You can knock me down 100 times and I will get up 101 times. You can hurt me, break my bones, make me bleed, but you cannot break what makes me human, and what makes me human is that I never give up." These words seemed to have a strange effect on the crowd. Aliens from dozens of different species found themselves moved by something they had never experienced before. They were watching someone fight, not just with his body, but with something deeper, something that came from the very core of what he was. Korax rushed forward again, his forearms moving like pistons, but now his attacks carried desperation instead of confidence. The alien was beginning to understand that he was not just fighting Kim Tae, he was fighting against an entire philosophy of life that he did not comprehend. How could someone keep fighting when victory seemed impossible? The two warriors crashed together again and again, trading blows in the center of the arena. But gradually, something became clear to everyone watching. Kim Tae was not just surviving the attacks anymore, he was learning from them, adapting to them, and slowly beginning to turn them to his advantage. When Korax threw a powerful right cross with his upper arm, Kim Tae ducked under it and struck the alien's exposed ribs. When the alien tried to grab him with his lower arms, the human slipped the hold and landed 2 quick punches before dancing away. Each exchange taught Kim Tae something new about his opponent. The crowd began to notice that their cheering had changed. Without realizing it, many aliens had stopped rooting for Korax and started hoping that the human would somehow find a way to win. They had been drawn in by his courage, by his refusal to surrender, by something in his spirit that spoke to them across the barriers of species and culture. Korax could feel the shift in the crowd's energy, and it terrified him. He had always fed off their admiration, their certainty that he would win. But now he heard something different in their voices: uncertainty, doubt, and even hope for his opponent. The alien realized that he was not just fighting for victory anymore. He was fighting to save his reputation in desperation. Korax decided to use his most powerful technique. He had developed it over years of combat, and it had never failed to end a fight quickly. The alien spread all 4 arms wide, then brought them together in a crushing blow that would hit his opponent from 4 different angles at once. Kim Tae saw the attack coming and knew he could not dodge it completely. Instead, he did something that shocked everyone watching. He stepped forward into the attack, accepting that he would be hit, but positioning himself to minimize the damage and create an opportunity for counterattack. The 4 fists struck Kim Tae simultaneously, lifting him off the ground and sending waves of pain through his entire body, but as he flew backward, from the impact, the human managed to grab onto Korax's armor and pull the alien off balance. Both warriors crashed to the arena floor in a tangle of limbs. For several seconds, neither fighter moved. The crowd held its breath, wondering if the battle was finally over. Then slowly, both warriors began to push themselves upright. Kim Tae rose first, his body shaking from pain and exhaustion, but his eyes still focused and determined. Korax got to his feet a moment later. But something had changed. The alien looked at Kim Tae with an expression that had never appeared on his face before during combat. It was respect mixed with something that might have been fear. Not fear of physical harm, but fear of facing someone whose will could not be broken. "How do you do it?" Korax asked quietly, his voice barely carrying to the nearest spectators. "How do you keep fighting when your body should have given up long ago? What drives you to continue when any reasonable being would surrender?" Kim Tae wiped blood from his mouth and smiled. The expression was tired and pained, but genuine. "Humans have a saying," he replied. "You can knock us down, but you cannot knock us out. The only way to truly defeat a human is to kill them, and even then we will probably try to take you with us." The alien warrior stared at this small, bleeding human who had somehow managed to survive everything he could throw at him. Korax began to understand that he was not just fighting Kim Tae, he was fighting against the entire human concept of never surrendering. For the first time in his long career, Korax felt something he had never experienced before in the arena. He felt like he might lose. And more than that, he felt like his opponent deserved to win. The 2 fighters faced each other across the sand, both battered and exhausted, but neither willing to give up. The crowd watched in complete silence, knowing they were witnessing something extraordinary. The final exchange was coming, and everyone in the arena could feel it. The arena had become completely silent as both warriors faced each other across the blood-stained sand. Korax stood with his 4 massive arms hanging at his sides, breathing heavily and staring at Kim Tae with a mixture of exhaustion and growing respect. The alien warrior had never fought anyone like this before, and he was beginning to understand that this battle would change him forever. Kim Tae looked terrible. His black fighting clothes were torn and bloody. His face was cut and swollen, and his body shook slightly from pain and fatigue, but his dark eyes still burned with unbreakable determination. The human had taken more punishment than most warriors could survive, yet he remained standing ready to continue fighting. Both fighters knew that the end was near. They had been battling for almost an hour, and their bodies were approaching the limits of endurance. The next exchange would likely be the last one, and both warriors prepared themselves for a final test of everything. They had learned during this incredible fight. Korax raised his forearms and took a deep breath. "This is it, human," he said with genuine respect in his voice. "One last attack. Everything I have left against everything you have left. No tricks, no strategies, just pure strength and will against strength." And will, Kim Tae nodded and dropped into his fighting stance, despite the pain that shot through his entire body. "I am ready," he replied simply. "Win or lose, I will face you with everything I have." The crowd of thousands leaned forward in their seats, completely absorbed in this moment. Many aliens who had come to watch an easy victory found themselves deeply moved by what they were witnessing. This was no longer just a fight. It was a demonstration of the power of the human spirit. Korax began his final charge, putting every ounce of strength, speed, and technique he possessed into one devastating assault. His forearms moved like hammers of the gods, each one carrying enough force to shatter stone. The alien warrior had decided to hold nothing back, knowing that this was his last chance to defeat an opponent who had already proven to be extraordinary. But as Korax committed everything to his ultimate attack, Kim Tae made a decision that would be talked about in the arena for generations to come. Instead of trying to dodge or defend, the human stepped forward directly into the path of those crushing blows. The crowd gasped in horror as it appeared that Kim Tae was deliberately choosing to be destroyed by Korax's most powerful attack. But the human had calculated something that no one else in the arena understood. By moving forward instead of backward, he changed the timing and angle of the collision in a way that might give him one small chance Korax lower. Two arms struck Kim Tae with tremendous force, lifting the human completely off the ground and sending waves of agony through his body. But instead of being knocked backward, Kim Tae used the upward momentum to propel himself higher. He had turned the alien's attack into a launch that brought him to the perfect position for his own counterattack. At the exact moment when Korax thought victory was his, Kim Tae's fists struck the alien in the face. Both the humans, right hand and his supposedly injured left hand, connected simultaneously with Korax's jaw. The sound of the double impact echoed through the arena like a crack of lightning. The effect was immediate and devastating. Korax, who had never been seriously hurt in arena combat, suddenly found his vision blurring and his balance failing. The alien warrior's yellow eyes rolled back, and his massive body began to fall backward toward the sand. Kim Tae landed hard on the arena floor, his legs barely able to support him after the terrible impact he had just absorbed. But somehow, he remained standing while Korax, the unbeaten champion of 12 worlds, crashed to the ground and lay still. For a moment that seemed to last forever, complete silence filled the massive arena. Thousands of alien spectators stared in shock at the impossible scene before them. The human, who they had been laughing at just hours earlier, stood victorious over their greatest champion. Then Kim Tae raised his arms in victory. Blood streamed down his face and his body swayed with exhaustion, but his spirit soared higher than the arena lights. The roar that erupted from the crowd was unlike anything ever heard before. Aliens who had bet against him now screamed his name. Spectators who had mocked his species now cheered for human courage. Vex, the arena master, approached with something like awe written across his purple features. His 6 arms trembled slightly as he raised his staff and made the official announcement. Warrior Kim Tae of Earth has achieved victory. The crowd erupted again, their voices creating a sound like thunder that shook the very foundations of the arena. A's. Kim Tae walked slowly toward the exit. Aliens from every species pressed forward, trying to touch him, to offer their respect, to understand how someone so small had accomplished something so great. Representatives from warrior cultures that had dismissed humans as weak now looked at him with reverence. But Kim Tae's thoughts were already turning toward home. He thought about his sister Sue, who would be watching this fight on the screens back on Earth. He thought about all the humans who had doubted themselves when they compared their strength to alien races. He thought about the message this victory would send across the galaxy. Dr. Zell appeared at Kim Tae's side, offering medical support, but the human warrior waved him away gently. "I am fine," he said, though his voice was hoarse from exhaustion. "The injuries will heal, but what we have proven here today will last forever." A young alien from the crowd called out, "How did you do it? How did someone so small defeat Korax, the unbeaten Kim?" Tae stopped and looked back at the thousands of faces watching him. Some were alien, species he had never seen before. Others were familiar races from the Galactic community, but all of them were looking at him with the same expression, wonder and respect. "Humans are not the strongest race," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the arena. "We are not the fastest or the toughest or the longest lived. But we have something that cannot be measured in laboratories or predicted by computers. We have the absolute refusal to give up when everything seems hopeless. When victory appears impossible, we find a way to keep fighting." The crowd listened in complete silence as Kim Tae continued, "You can knock us down and we will get back up. You can hurt us and we will endure. You can tell us we cannot win and we will prove you wrong. Because the greatest strength is not in our muscles. It is in our hearts that refuse to surrender." As Kim Tae finally left the arena, the crowd remained standing and cheering. The story of this fight would spread across the galaxy within hours, carried by news networks and personal messages to every inhabited world. No alien race would ever again make the mistake of underestimating human determination. In the medical bay, Korax slowly regained consciousness. The alien warrior looked up at Dr. Zell with confused eyes. "What happened?" he asked weakly. "You were defeated by someone who taught the entire galaxy what human spirit really means," the doctor replied. "And you should be honored to have been part of such an extraordinary demonstration. From that day forward, the galaxy understood that while humans might be physically smaller than most alien races, they possessed something far more powerful. They had the strength of spirit that could overcome any obstacle, survive any hardship, and find victory, even in the darkest moments." The legend of Kim Tae spread to every corner of known space, inspiring humans and earning the respect of alien civilizations. And whenever someone suggested that humans were too weak to stand among the great warrior races of the galaxy, the response was always the same. "Remember what happened when